This module is so exciting. A frigid landscape, a winter that never ends, and a cold-hearted killer to track down.
Yeah, this is a promising beginning. Nothing like Descent into Avernus where we all TPK'd in the first fight at level 1.
Holy crap, that really sucked.
Well, we are still level 1. I feel that we should temper our optimism in the design team's competency until we get a little farther into the content.
Yeah, about that cold-hearted killer. You guys finally managed to hunt him down.
Heck yeah, let's make him squeal.
It isn't hard. He freely admits to being behind the murders.
Well, that was easy. What do you say, guys? Time to murderize him in the name of justice and earned our 100 gold pieces?
Yeah, Fat Cat and I enjoy murderizing. Well, y'all know what I'm gonna say. It's stabby time.
Time to do this.
Which spell to cast?
Oh, knock it off.
Yeah, just cast Fireball and get it over with.
Fine. I cast Fireball.
Okay, you guys fight the cold-hearted killer and...
What? No fight montage?
No, the editor said no more fight montages. He threatened to strike.
Well, what are we paying him for if he won't cut a fine montage for our wonderful skits?
No, just let it be. I'll just tell you what happened, okay?
Okay, fine. But this sucks.
Yeah, it's another TPK. I'm really sorry, guys.
Wait, what?
You see, I told you all not to get your hopes up.
Oh, come on. Really? Again?
What the heck is the deal with all of these crazy, deadly encounters at level 1?
I just made this character too. This isn't fair.
Wait. Did Fat Cat die too?
Look, I'm really sorry, you guys. I don't know what to say. I just work here, you know? Welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Lucar, and I've been a Dungeon Master since high school. On this channel, I give practical Dungeon Master advice that you can implement at your game table. I swear, the word implement is beyond the scope of my ability to pronounce properly. Whatever. Today in the Lair, I'll be reviewing Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. Now, since I'm going to be talking about this module, there will probably also be some spoilers. So yeah, you've been forewarned. Now, I'm going to do a few different things here. First of all, I'm going to give you an overview of the module and each of the chapters and what you'd be getting yourself into. However, I'm not going to delve into the minutiae of every single quest, nor tell you if I think each one is awesome or not. We're trying to keep this video under 2 hours, you know? Then we'll talk about artwork, maps, usability, that is, can you find what you're looking for? Is the module easy for the Dungeon Master to use? Or is the information about a super important NPC mentioned on page 49 buried over on page 256 with no hope of being found? Now, before I jump in, I want to let you know that my Kickstarter Into the Fae, a level 1 to 5 adventure module featuring lots of new Fae creatures, is now accepting late pledges. So if you missed the Kickstarter but you still want to grab this module for your group and maybe pick up some cool accessories such as exclusive dice bags and tactical tokens, see that beautiful link down below. Adventure Module Overview. In Chapter 1, when the characters are all level 1, they find themselves in 10 towns, a town in the frigid north beyond the spine of the world, and this chapter does a great job of giving the players a tour of 10 towns. The campaign can start in any one of the towns, a decision left to the Dungeon Master, and in addition to 2 extremely short level 1 starter quests, each town has its own quest characters could go on. This gives the Dungeon Master and players lots of options and the beginnings of what we will see as a wide open world they can explore. Adventures here are designed for levels 1 through 3, and by the time they reach level 4, it's expected the players will be moving on to the next chapter. In Chapter 2, the characters begin adventuring outside the 10 towns and into the hostile, freezing wilderness of Icewind Dale itself. Here, there are a total of 12 different quests the players might go on. Again, it's left to the Dungeon Master to decide which to guide the players to via plot hooks, or for the players to wander about exploring and find for themselves. I think this chapter does a good job of giving the characters a tour of the wilderness around 10 towns. There's lots of really cool stuff for players to do in this chapter. However, I gotta say, the leveling mechanic in this chapter, character advancement as it's called in the book, is kind of complex. There are a few different things you could gain levels for, but by the end of the chapter, the characters can reach level 7, but no further per the module. And that's because Chapter 3, Sunblade, is designed for characters at level 7, of course. Wait, hold on. Chapter 3 is designed for level 7, right? I mean, that would only make sense that Chapter 3 is designed for level 7. Oh, no. So that's not actually right. Chapter 3 is actually designed for characters of level 4 or 5. Who would have thunk it? See, right here on this handy adventure flow chart, it says that Chapter 3 is designed for levels 4 and 5. And then in the chapter itself, it says characters can advance up to level 6, but no farther. So why then can Chapter 2 take the characters to level 7, but Chapter 3 is designed for levels 4 and 5? Am I missing something or something? Okay, you know, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here and I feel like a rant is coming on, but let's just hold that thought for later and keep on track with the adventure overview. Chapter 3, Sunblade, features a Duergar fortress whose leader, Zardarok, plans to destroy 10 towns by bringing a mechanical dragon to life. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty bad dude. We should probably kill him, right? Which brings us to Chapter 4, where Zardarok's dragon has come to life and is raising 10 towns, because back in Chapter 3, where the characters were trying to stop this from happening, yeah, plot devices being what they are, the characters didn't really have a chance of stopping that from happening. But at least they got to gain level 6 in Chapter 3, so it wasn't for nothing, right? Unless, of course, they made it all the way to level 7 in Chapter 2. So I guess there's always that. Anyway, moving on to Chapter 5 now. The characters should be level 7 either from their exploits in Chapter 2 or from crawling through the Duergar fortress and helping defeat the mechanical dragon. And they're gonna need their level 7 too, because in Chapter 5 they delve into Auril's abode. Auril? Am I pronouncing that properly? This is actually a really cool feature of the book. I'm tangenting here. There's literally a pronunciation guide in the book. For people like me, let's say Wizards knew that people like me can't pronounce crap. And so they put a pronunciation guide right in the book. So, Auril. So what I said Auril is totally wrong. That sounds like something from Disney Little Mermaid. Anyway, it's pronounced Auril. I'm gonna try to get that right the rest of this video. So anyway, they delve into Auril's abode. Oh crap, did I forget to mention this? I think I forgot to mention the entire premise of the module. Yeah, so basically Auril the Frostmaiden, the divine embodiment of winter's fury and a lesser deity in the Forgotten Realms, has chosen Icewind Dale as her home and has locked it in a forever winter for several years now. One of the main goals of the characters in the module will be to put an end to that, of course. And it's in Chapter 5 that the characters will get their crack at this. They travel to Auril's Island of Solstice and into Grimscale, Auril's fortress and abode. Here players will find themselves facing a lesser deity in a weakened state, of course, due to plot devices that were necessary to make sure a level 7 party had any chance of winning, of course. Though I will mention there are other ways to win besides going toe-to-toe with her, and that's actually a strength of several of the leveling mechanics in the module. Once Auril is taken care of, the characters gain level 8 and advance to Chapter 6, the Caves of Hunger, where they begin their search for an ancient Netherese city buried deep in Ragged Glacier. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm not gonna look it up. It's a glacier. We're good. And let's take a time out, shall we? Like what's up with this city? Why is this even in the module? Okay, yeah, it's still a cool dungeon and it's full of adventure, baddies to fight, and treasure to be had. But honestly, it feels kind of out of place. Like the characters already defeated Auril. It seems like that should have been the climax of the module, right? Okay, look, as a writer myself, this really feels like someone trying to hit their page count. It's still a cool adventure, but the storyline just feels super forced at this point. It's like they wrote the main adventure and were like, dude, we're only at 150 pages. We can't charge $50 for that. All right, beef up Chapter 2, Icewind Dale, even if that makes the leveling a little wonky. Well, yeah, we did that, boss. Still at only 200 pages. Okay, fine. Just add a couple more adventures onto the end of the module and make it fit in as best as you can. Yeah, I know. I'm probably getting a little too nitpicky here, and this really isn't a super big deal, I guess, but it's kind of like in Curse of Strahd, if when you kill Strahd, there are still 2 more adventures to be done in the module. It's like, why? We just killed Strahd. What's the point? All right, moving on. Next point. Once the players make it through the Caves of Hunger, which is the path to the Netherese city, they gain level 9. At that point, they find themselves in the buried magic city itself and can begin exploring it. Now, according to the module, the characters can gain up to 3 levels here, taking them all the way to level 12 by the end of the module. And Yithern, the name of the Netherese city, is an okay-ish big dungeon to explore, but it's nowhere close to being worth 3 levels. This just feels like someone wanted to use some marketing slogan like, take your party to level 10 and beyond, which is great, I guess, except that the content is supposedly designed for level 9, and there isn't enough content for 3 levels anyway. I think I mentioned that once. Okay, and by the end of chapter 7, if your players didn't defeat Auril in chapter 5, she shows up back for revenge, and the characters need to finish what they started. Should have killed her the first time, I guess. Oh, by the way, has anyone mentioned yet that they haven't because I'm doing the video, that there is a scroll of Tarask summoning at the end of the module that the characters could use? What a great way to end the module. Bam, Tarask kills you all. Then you have like the Tarask shows up, murders them all, rampages across all of 10 towns in the far north, destroys everything. The Dungeon Master's is like, good job guys, you really screwed that module up. Oh, that's so cruel. Somebody at Wizards we need to connect because they think just like I do. Now, before we talk about the wonderful leveling mechanic, which will be a fun conversation, by the way, have I plugged my weekly live streams yet? Of course not. There is a beautiful link down below to my Twitch channel where I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I answer your D&D questions, paint miniatures, and create Dungeon Master resources such as D&D adventures, NPCs, and magic items. Which, by the way, you can find over on my site, thedmlair.com. Also, gonna put a link down below there. Leveling mechanic. Now, this book is thick. It's over 300 pages. There is enough content in here that your adventuring party should be able to reach like level 15 or higher. I mean, there's enough content for that. But here's the thing, it was designed for characters under level 10, which means you're going to have a ton of material in this book that you never use. Sure, it gives you options, but it's also kind of pointless reading and prepping if you're never going to use it. Why didn't this book go all the way to level 15, considering all the many adventures it has in it? And why is the leveling mechanic so jacked up? Why can chapter 2 take characters to level 7, but then chapters 3 and 4 also take characters to level 7. Like, what was the design team actually thinking here? To have an open sandbox world with lots of options for players? I mean, maybe. Probably. Yeah, that's gotta be it. I don't know why else they would do that. But even then, it's a little wonky. Or to give the Dungeon Master a colossal headache as they're trying to sort through this leveling nightmare and make sure characters don't end up either way in over their heads or steamrolling the content. I mean, maybe that was it. That's pretty cruel though. Let me be very, very clear. By this merit alone, this module is not designed for new Dungeon Masters. If you're fresh out of the gate and you think picking this up to run it for your players is a good idea, good luck with that. I predict lots of frustration. Maps. Okay, I decided to talk about the maps next because I really want to talk about something positive for a change. Yeah, the maps are great. I love the maps. They are full color maps that will look very nice on virtual tabletops like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. Now, how you actually get the images of the maps to use on VTTs is another question. I typically pull mine off D&D Beyond, but that means buying the book a second time there. Now, to be honest, I've actually come to like the black and white maps in previous modules, mainly because I like making copies of them and then taking notes directly on the maps as part of my game prep. And full color maps are usually harder to do that with. But hey, I am not going to complain about the full color maps. They're awesome. Artwork. Yeah, it's beautiful. It sets the tone for the dark, cold survival module with hints of horror. No complaints at all about the artwork. Adventure design. Hey, you remember my opening skit that poked fun at how Wizards of the Coast keeps on designing level 1 adventures that can easily TPK the party? Yeah, they did it again. They did it again and again and again and again. There's lots of level 1s in this book that will your entire party at level 1. I think that actually the level 1 quest, one of the level 1 quests will, and then there are like level 2 quests that, it's great. Like why? Why do they keep on doing this? I don't understand. Somebody shed light on why this keeps on happening in all the modules? I just don't get it. I'm ignorant. I need enlightenment. Anyway, one of the level 1 adventurers pits the party against a CR3 enemy that will almost assuredly kill the entire party. And this got me curious, actually, and thinking, how balanced are the other adventures? Let's take a look at some quests in Chapter 2, which were designed for levels 4 through 7. In the adventure Black Cabin, the end fight is almost 2 times beyond the deadly threshold for a group of 5 level 4 characters, so another possible TPK, but not so bad if you're level 6 or 7 by then. In the Cackling Chasm, the encounters are mostly easy for a group of 5 level 4 characters, which of course means that the quest will be a cakewalk of cakewalks for levels 5, 6, and 7 characters, because it's also designed for them. In Cave of the Berserkers, the 2 white dragon wormlings here are a medium challenge for a group of 5 level 4 characters. Of course, the 3 Chartlewind Berserkers the group will encounter is 3 times beyond the deadly threshold for that same group of level 4 characters, and it's still hard for a level 7 group. Looks like another TPK, eh? Okay, look, maybe only Chapter 2 is a hot mess. I mean, the game designers were probably trying to design quests, I know they were, that might work with levels 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is a tall order and very hard to do, which begs the question of why. But what if we look at a different chapter of the module that was designed for just 1 level instead of a range of 4 levels? How about Chapter 5, which is designed for level 7? In Area G20, the characters might find themselves up against 3 Frost Druids, which are CR5 creatures. So for a group of 5 level 7 characters, that encounter is fairly deadly, but not so much that a TPK is likely. However, over in Chapter 6, I found a battle against 2 young Remorazes and a Gnoll Vampire, which is pretty cool by the way, that would be 50% beyond the deadly threshold for a group of level 8 characters, and I feel that's probably approaching TPK territory. Of course, if they manage to somehow survive that encounter, the next chamber over has an adult Remoraz and 1 young Remoraz, another deadly encounter, so that should definitely kill them off if the first one didn't. And what's my point here? Do I even have a point? Of course I do. I always have a point. I try to. Point is, Dungeon Masters, get ready to put in a lot of work rebalancing encounters in this module. Chapter 2 is a hot mess, and from the handful of other encounters I punched the numbers on, I feel fairly confident that I would not, under any circumstances, run this module as is and blindly trust the design team to have balanced things properly. That would be a grave mistake. I know the CR system is fairly jacked, so there's always that, but it actually works fairly well between levels 4 and 10, say, so we can't even afford them that cop-out here. And another thing to note, too, I noticed quite a few spellcaster-type enemies throughout the module, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but it does take more effort, preparation, and skill as a Dungeon Master to run spellcaster enemies well. So just something to keep in mind is all. New creatures! In Appendix C, I was quite pleased to see quite a few brand new creatures added to 5th edition, not just creatures from Volos or Mordenkainen's being reproduced here to fill up space. For instance, I thought the Gnoll Vampire and Kobold Vampire spawn were really stinking cool. That's a sort of twist on an established theme that I find really awesome. Usability and organization. Well, first of all, I'm happy to report that there is read aloud text throughout this module. Not including read aloud text is extremely lazy, and I've ranted at length about other modules that don't have it. Overall, I thought the organization of the module was fairly solid. The summary and intros for the module as a whole and each chapter got the job done. My main usability gripe has to do with the leveling mechanic and the adventure design, and I've already griped about that at length, so I won't repeat it again, even though it's very tempting. Overall recommendation. This module has problems. Dungeon Masters are maybe going to use 50% of what's actually in the book, the rest is just extra reading to do. Now, maybe you see that as a good thing, and it can be, because it means more options for the DM and players, and that's fair. I see it as begging the question, why didn't they just design the module to take the group to level 15 instead? Because there are groups that go beyond level 10, and the content's all there, it just needs to be remade for a little bit more levels. And as mentioned, you will need to do a lot of rework to make the adventures appropriately challenging for your players, or to not kill them. However, despite all of the complaining and griping and nitpicking I have done Throughout this video, I will say this, the adventures themselves seem pretty stinking sweet. As I read through the module, I constantly found myself saying out loud, oh cool, that sounds really awesome. I feel like Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden has a solid story and interesting adventures. However, it's the implementation thereof and the mechanics that rather fall flat. I pay big money for sound effects like that. Actually, my editor could do a legitimate sound effect, but I'm okay, whatever. This is like having a really nice $300,000 home, but the inside is a disaster. The house would be great if you just hired a cleaning crew and got things sorted out. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitch for some chill live streams where we hang out, talk D&D, and even paint minis together. Let me know your thoughts on Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. Next week, I'll be talking about how to deal with overpowered spells, but until then, click right here for my review of Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, about which I rant far less than I did this module. And until next time, let's play D&D.